Hello, and welcome to your weekly podcast here on Four Lads Had a Dream. My name's Andrew, joined tonight by three of my very favourite podders, including one I've never podded before because I love all the podders equally. Um, Pleasure, obviously, to welcome back Kenny, Andrew, Stewart, and our newbie, Davie. So, we got lots to talk about. I'm going to come to you first, Davie. Comfortable 4-0 win against Ross County. It's at home, so we knew that was going to be happening anyway. It wasn't away. But yeah, very good result. 2 goals from Haji, two that he definitely meant as well. John Suter getting a goal that probably would have broken the stratosphere if it hadn't been contained by the net. And Rangers got a penalty as well. So, a lot of firsts this season happening for us. Very good to see, I think, mate.
Yeah, all this positivity, I can get used to it. I think first and foremost, it's great to put a game easily to bed like that straight after a European game, because I think that traditionally Sundays after European games are usually a bit of a struggle, and 3 up at half time and able to bring the boys on in the second half is exactly what you want to do in a game like that. I think it's fair to say that the opposition wasn't the strongest. I mean, let's not pretend. When that's 13-0, we're beating them this season. So if you had played anybody on Sunday after the European game, probably that's the team you'd want to play, going by past results. But loads of positives in it. As you say, Haji's 2 goals. Interesting to see what happens to him in the summer. Seattle looking impressive again. Getting man of the match. Young Rice coming on at half time. And I think he really does look a player. I hope we see quite a bit more of him in the remainder of the season. And overall, a very positive day. I mean, even Dessa's mistakes didn't get booed, which I think tells you a little bit about the positivity now going round Ibrox after recent results on Thursday night, last 8 of Europe, last 16 of Europe, etc. So, yeah, long may it continue. Although I do think that the big test comes in a fortnight at Tynecastle. I think after that game, if we're still as positive, then we are in a good place.
Yeah, we've spoken about it before in the pod that it's been the away results that have kind of killed us this season. Our home form's been pretty magnificent. I think it's almost perfect with the exception of a draw. So, yeah, Andrew, we touched on Haji, but I think his contribution's been really important. We've seen since he's come back in from the cold early on in the season that he is absolutely showing what he can do. It's been a shame we've not had him in Europe, but I suppose on the other hand, it's meant that he's been rested and he's been able to almost empty the tank in these domestic performances. At least at home, that's been good. Him getting the 2 goals as well. The first one's definitely is the skill. The second one, you could possibly argue it was maybe a little fortunate with the deflection there, but nonetheless, I mean, you're still putting the ball in and you're making things happen. So, yeah, really impressed with him. And as Davie says, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with his contract situation come this summer.
It's you need to be good to be lucky and lucky to be good. And Giannis certainly had a slice of fortune on the free kick. It's one of those where the keeper's not saving it, but it's not a superb 30-yarder in off the bar that no keeper in the world save. The keeper would have to be a psychic to have seen the deflection coming to have a chance. Giannis has really impressed me since he's come back into the first team squad. I know there's a lot of politics around the reasons why he didn't feature early in the season, but it's been put in the rearview mirror. His performances, he's been Giannis that we know he can be, and consistently. Is that because he is getting a rest was getting a rest with the European squad limitations? Will that change with the next round of European fixtures? Who knows? And then obviously the big question mark on his contract. I personally would love to see an extension there. I think Philippe said that they're definitely open to the discussion, and I think Giannis is doing what all football players do nowadays. He says that there'll be a discussion with him and his agent, because that's just modern football for you. But I'm happy to just focus on his football for now. There's not really been much talk about anyone coming in with the free transfer that I've seen, thankfully, which would have rushed the whole transfer or contract negotiation from Rangers side. But yeah, along with these consistent performances continue, whilst he's not being injury ridden, which he has had a case of in the past.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it makes sense to give him a couple of years, and then worst case scenario, we sell him. I mean, that's worst case scenario for us is our transfer platform actually working as it should be. Take players and then sell them for money. It's a wild concept, but I believe that Rangers will get there one day and start doing that more consistently. Kenny, 2 set pieces and 2 goals. Miracles may never cease. A penalty and a corner. Suter, obviously, as we said, getting his goal, and Tav remembering how to take a penalty, because it's been about a year since we last had one. So that was really good to see as well, that he's not forgotten how to do that. It's one game. You don't want to draw any kind of conclusions, but the new assistant manager is obviously paying off. Give all the credit to him for sure. I mean, in fairness, we have seen more of a pattern of that since the turn of the year, where we've slowly and surely started getting 1 or 2 results from set pieces. But it was really good to see that, and giving us more options to actually get goals can only be a positive going forward, right?
Yeah, surprising as well, isn't it? Because we've been talking all season about how we don't score set pieces, and we've managed to score 4 or 5 in the last few games. It's a welcome surprise, put it that way. But listen, I actually thought that even on Thursday night and over the last couple of weeks, our set pieces have been really, been a lot of variation in them. So they are kind of changing it up a little bit, I think. And I heard the manager the other day say that they have been working on it. They've been working on it all season, but more so lately, I think, is basically what he kind of insinuated, because they've had more time to do it. So look, Rangers and set pieces. That my concern is still the set pieces. They're defending the set pieces. I don't think we're particularly coping with them that well. But that'll come. I think that a lot of that is down to the chopping and changing of personnel. Andrew, I think it's very difficult to be settled when you're playing that kind of zonal and man marking thing at the same time. It just causes a little bit of confusion if you don't have a solid and consistent back four, and we don't have that at the moment. So hopefully that picks up as well. But yeah, 4 goals, 2 of them from set plays, as you say, and a stroll, because Davie had said the game was done and dusted. It's actually done and dusted in 25 minutes, wasn't it? It really was a nice atmosphere about the place, and it was great to see, Andrew. And again, as Davie had said, it's always a struggle, on a Sunday after a Thursday night game, particularly a tough Thursday night game like the one we had. That was a physical game. So fair play to the players and the manager for getting it spot on Sunday. I was delighted with it.
No, absolutely. As you said, Kenny, the defensive partnership's an interesting one, because I think that was something like our 20th combination now of defensive players in the back there. Clinton and Ciala, though, has been playing well. Him next to John Suter as well. John Suter, we know how good he can be. The concern's just always been keeping him fit and making sure he can keep contributing. But Davie, I mean, and Ciala's coming to the team, and he's not put a foot wrong, really. I can't think of too many performances where he's not at least putting a solid 6 out of 10, and he was good enough to get the Stadium Man of the Match just this past weekend. So he's coming with leaps and bounds so far.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think that he was a bit of the invisible man at the start of the season. We had all these defensive injuries, and yet he was never quoted for whatever reason that was. I mean, obviously, he came from another country, still a young man, probably taking a bit of time to settle here. But since he's come into the team, he's looked a very assured centre back. He's good in the ball. He can play a good long pass. He wins more tackles than he loses. He wins more headers than he loses. So it's a pretty good combination, really. I don't see him as a particularly dominant centre half. I think us good old fashioned Scottish football fans like to see a big dominant guy at the back there somewhere. I don't see him as that, but I think him and Suter potentially is the right kind of partnership. You've got a right side, you've got a left side, you've got 2 guys that can play the ball. But I think Suter coming back is the thing I've been waiting on to see if defending of cross balls and set pieces improves, because we didn't concede too many set piece goals before he got injured, and it seems as if we've conceded quite a few since. Coincidence or not, I do not know, but we'll find out. It was great to see him back. I thought I actually didn't expect him to play yesterday, if I'm honest. When he came on against the Belgian team in midweek, I was expecting him to need a rest after that, but he played. He played an hour. It was one of the games perfectly. You can bring him off after an hour because the game's over. I do think they two might be a good partnership going forward. Although Proper's done okay after a pretty ropey first few months, but that's a good problem to have. And then you've got this new young guy coming in as well, who obviously the manager will want to give a few chances to see whether he's worth keeping on next season. So and it was needed, because unfortunately Big Balogun, who I really like, he just can't play 2 games in a row anymore. So we've got to be looking to the future. So Nsiala, and I think the other thing about him is now that the player trading model is the thing we've always talked about over the last few years, isn't it? Well, he looks like another example, along with Jeffy, along with Igaman, that maybe there's a little gem they've unearthed that unfortunately he's here to make his money rather than here to win his lots and lots of trophies.
I think, unfortunately, that's going to be the way forward. We know, short of winning the Europa League every season, we're not going to get a massive injection of finance playing in the league that we do. But it's young, talented players with potential. That's got to be a better way than anything else. I was going to come to Andrew next, but he's gone. So, yeah, screw it. I think there might be some technical difficulties there, but he works in IT, so I'm sure he can figure it out. I think, as you say, Davie, that combination potentially of Suter and Nsiala looks good. We saw a brief cameo from our new guy, Rafael Fernandez, and it's going to be interesting to see how he slots into that. Balogun and Proper are obviously thereabouts as well. Balogun, the injury and his age, I think, is a risk when it comes to playing him more frequently. So that's going to be interesting to see. But it's going to be interesting. And as you say, Rangers getting themselves into a position where we are 3 goals up at half time, and then we can take the next 45 and play that at a relatively sedate pace and kind of, not overexert ourselves, not be chasing the game to the 90th minute. That bodes well for your fitness going forward, because it means you're not constantly emptying the tank. Knowing that we've obviously already qualified for that final 16 as well means that we've got a few spare midweeks, which we almost never have. So, that also provides some opportunities to get some more, fuel back in the legs, if you like, and do some practice, maybe on set pieces or something like that. Crazy. I'm going to come to you first, Andrew, but I want to go around to all of you. Let's talk about the transfer window. So that's going to be closing tonight as we record. By the time I suspect most people are listening to or watching this, it'll be done. So, this might all be superseded, although I think we know that our business is done. Looks like the sum total of the incomings are Rafael Fernandez, as we said, and Lyle Cameron signed up a Bosman for, effectively to arrive in the summer, not coming in January. Again, fits that profile, young, talented player. He's Scottish as well, which is also helpful. I suspect it's going to be quite similar to the Conor Barron deal, where we'll just have to pay the development fee come the summer. I know, and Andrew, I know it's going to be sore, but in terms of the outgoings, then Kieran Dowell out, Robbie Fraser out on loan as well, and Adam Devine out on loan. Although, given that he's at the end of his contract, that might be a loan with a view to he's leaving. And of course, Rabbi Matondo has left as well, showing his talent already. Excellent goal for Hanover, according to you. It's a shame, obviously, to lose on, but I think regrettably he just didn't contribute enough for us consistently enough. I think that was the big issue, given his wage, given the lack of contribution. Not lack of contribution. Let's be fair, not enough of a contribution. It makes sense to clear him off and bring in some of the younger players instead. We know that the B team's got its own issues. We know that there's stuff going on with that, but for me, it makes more sense to be given some of the kids these opportunities rather than someone like Kieran Dowell coming on and taking that place. Robbie Fraser, I think, is someone who's going to be coming back. I think there's definitely a plan in mind for him. In terms of that transfer business as a whole, then, mate, setting aside obviously devastation over Rabi, we've not done a lot of business, and it could be argued that we should have done more. But the flip side of that is, I mean, what are you competing for? We're bringing in players ostensibly to get our best possible shot at the Scottish Cup. I don't know. I mean, never stop believing. Obviously, tickets for the final are already booked for the Euros, but we'll see how that goes. I don't think we're seriously strategizing on that basis. So, how do you take the transfer window as a whole, mate? Trying to set aside your emotional component.
Well, first of all, I'd say it wasn't just my opinion, it was a stunner. I think the Puskás Goal Award Tribunal will also agree with me on the fact that it was a beauty. No, I think it boils down to the fact that, we complain, rightly or wrongly, about not having, a dialogue top down from those in charge that are going to set what we're thinking or where we are as a club. And, well, accounts Patrick Stewart said one or two. One, I think was obvious we needed a centre back, regardless of loan or transfer. There's a lot of speculation about Johnny Evans. We went with Rafael Fernandez. Jury's still out on us. We've not seen him very much. Obviously, his cameo appearance at the weekend there. Hopefully, first of many. It depends on what they're thinking about him for the European squad. I think that was a must to get a centre back in. One or two, well, we get about 1.5 technically, because you got the deal done in January, but you're not going to get the player in January, obviously. With Lyle Cameron, I like the profile. He passes the eye test anytime I see Rangers or Dundee play, or the two meeting. I think he certainly looks like a player who is comfortable at the Scottish level. Whether or not this will be a case of him coming in, will there be a head and shoulders gap between him and I was going to say Nadim Barami as a a case of somebody that's obviously been bought in from a foreign market, but he's maybe not the best measuring stick at the minute. As the jury's still out on him for me and my opinion on him. But I think we'll see, more similar to Connor's early impact. I know it's kind of dropped off, and obviously he's picked up this injury at Old Trafford. But I think having both of them there, just even as, we looked at the squad list going to Old Trafford, and you're thinking, wow, there's a lot of guys who will have school in the morning. Now you've got two guys in Connor Barron and Lyle Cameron who are in at least over 20 now, which I see as a positive for bringing on in one of these tough away trips in Europe. But I think that's where we're kind of seeing ourselves at the business. I think Niels Coppin's been quite shrewd with that kind of decision making. And let's face it, as a market that we've neglected and we've been snake bitten with in terms of luck. There's not a day that goes by when I hear about Lewis Ferguson not having any interest from the club without, I almost keel over every time I hear it. But I think not to put pressure on him that he could go and Cameron will have the same impact as Ferguson, but I think giving ourselves the opportunity to let him develop at our club is the main thing. From a player trading model point of view, young lad, can be featured in European games as a nationally trained player. It gives us a launching point for him to make a name for himself. Outgoings, as I said, Rabi going out. I understand it. I don't like it, but I understand it. Obviously, big wages. Same with Kieran Dowell. The aerodynamics in his neck just didn't work for a full-time footballer. So going to Birmingham City, maybe the best option for him. And that's going to have to continue. Obviously, Tom Lawrence's contract's up at the end of the season, as far as I can remember. That's a big wage. There'll be some more trimming that needs done from now in the ongoings or outgoings of contracts that may expire. And players we're looking to ship on in the summer. So we're very, very much in the early stages of this full-scale kind of revamp and rebuild of a squad. We're also trying to make it function in the meantime, which again, very difficult job. And again, I've said it all along. Props to the manager for managing to make it work when it's had to work. There's been bumps in the road, but we're hopefully seeing it smoothening as we're going along.
Yeah, I mean, here's hoping, right? It's always going to be a bit disappointing to not have brought more in. We know that January is notoriously a tricky window. I think the argument's been made. You could go and get squad players or squad fillers now, but they wouldn't necessarily be the players you want. Whereas in summer, you're more likely to get those players that you do want. And with the players who are going out on loan, we're seeing the results of poor transfer windows in the past. We have brought on players who, realistically, Kieran Dowell, Brad Matondo, Tom Lawrence, even have never been players who have ever firmly established themselves in the first team. For me, Kenny, I mean, much as I might personally want us to go out and sign another 10 players, I can absolutely understand the rationale behind it in terms of kind of cutting our cloth accordingly and just getting in some players, getting players lined up in Lower Cameron for the future more than anything else.
Yeah, there's quite a lot to unpack about this transfer window, isn't there, when you look at it, because there's a definite change in direction from Rangers here. And, when you look at the midfield, come next season, you're going to have young Bailey Rice, you're going to have Conor Barron, you're going to have Lyle Cameron. That's 3 young Scottish boys in and about that squad. That's good to see. What we haven't done, which I'm not quite happy, I'm really delighted about this window, is we haven't went and spent vast amounts of money on a loan signing that we have been doing in January for the last few years, where we're going to spend crazy money on Silva or Aaron Ramsey or whoever it may be, but it's costing a lot of money and you're not getting a huge return out of it. So I'm glad that stopped. And I was talking to my son earlier on, and he actually made a decent point to me when he said that it's kind of pointless, taking a gamble on any player at this minute in time, because we've proven already this season we can beat anyone in a one-off game. Our problem this season has been consistency. Away from home. But as he said, that you can beat anyone in a one-off game, and at the end of the day, realistically, what we're trying to win now is the Scottish Cup. So, do we really need to overly improve the squad in terms of taking gambles on players that are only going to be here for 6 months? No. And if you're Philip Clement, Niels Coppin, and you can't get that player in just now, then there's no point in working your way down a list really at the minute, is there? That's just a personal opinion for me, but I would much rather see us just plan and progress for the summer and look at the overall picture that, Patrick Stewart and Andrew had alluded to it there. There was a restructuring in place. There's an overall review of the football department going on. And I very much suspect that they are looking at the wastage that's going on in that squad at the minute, and probably more inclined to deal with that with the predicament we find ourselves in the league. We're not going to win this league. That's barring an absolute collapse, and we're not going to finish third. We're going to finish second. But us having an absolute collapse, and you just can't see it because we're getting better and more cohesive and fluent as the season is going on here. So, look, I'm a disappointed. I agree with Davie. We were talking earlier on, and Davie said he would like to have seen a winger in. And I agree with that. With Rabbi Matondo going out, I think we're a little bit short there because of Cortez's injury. But then you have got Bayrami and Haji that can play there. And Yilmaz, if he's fit, has been in and around there as well. So, yeah, we all want loads of players, don't we? But economics and common sense, I think, have probably prevailed here, Andrew. I think it's just the way it is at the club at this minute in time, where there's more important things to deal with than, as I said, perhaps taking a gamble on spending £1.5 million on a loan that invariably, if you look back on it, it really hasn't worked very well for us, has it? So, c'est la vie as it is.
Pretty much, yeah. I think I'll come to you last, Davie, but I think certainly that's the only major hole that I could see in the squad now, which is that left wing position, just because of the question marks over Cortez. We don't know what the ETA is on him actually coming back. We'd heard various kind of estimates after the injury, but he's just not materialized yet. But then, as Kenny says, we have players who can play in that position. Danilo, when fit, has been good there. Yilmaz as well, who I'd forgotten can play out there because I've been used to seeing him filling in at right back, which tells its own story about how threadbare our squad has been at times this season. With everyone fit, the squad's relatively balanced. The problem is that we have a number of players who aren't that. So it's interesting. I mean, it's a perfect world situation, right, Davie? Like if we had everyone fit, we're fine. But we're dealing with the reality, which is that isn't the case.
Yeah, well, I think anyone who's listened to either the manager or the chief executive or anyone else who's spoke about finances at the club in the last 8-9 months, the wage bill is king. The wage bill is exactly the thing that they talk about all the time. And the reason the wage bill is so high is basically the squad's got too many players in it that haven't contributed enough and they're getting paid too much. It's actually as straightforward as that. And Andrew will kill me for it, but his wing hero is actually one of those players that I'm talking about. So I actually do think Rangers would have brought a player in this window if Dowell and Matondo had left, well, at least one of them in a permanent deal. But because the loans, in effect, you've just kicked the wage bill problem, kicked the can down the road another few months, haven't you? Because maybe Rabi will keep scoring phenomenal goals across in Germany, and maybe Hanover will give us some money for him in the summer, because I think they've got some kind of option to buy with a fee set in there already, haven't they? So maybe that will happen. Birmingham City have got not just Dowell, they've got Ben Davis as well, who's also on a fortune, who we've all kind of forgotten about. He's potentially, although he's played quite well for Birmingham by all accounts, and it looks as if they're going to get promoted. So I'm hoping that they're going to take him off our wage bill, and hopefully they'll take Dowell off the wage bill as well if he's successful. But we don't know that at the moment. So I don't think there was any even remote chance of us signing him permanently and adding the wage bill further when we don't know what's going to happen in the summer. So I say, and the other thing about the summer is, as far as I'm aware, we've got £4 million to spend in Cortez, whether we like it or not. Which we talked about previous crazy transfers that's another one that is hanging over us just now. So there's no way we're going to bring in too many players this window. As far as my little wish about a winger, I do think we are really, really susceptible if Cherny get in there. I think that of all the wide players and people who can play wide that we've got at the moment, right or left, he's such a consistent goal contributor, and he lots of assists as well. He creates danger almost every time he gets up the park. I don't see another wide player that's contributing even remotely close to what he's contributing, and it's an injury to him that worries me. That worries me more than anything else, and that's why I was hoping we would get another goal threat out wide. As for young Cameron, more than 100 games already for Dundee, knows the league, knows what Rangers are about. I think it's a no-brainer. Personally, that's exactly the kind of player. And as I alluded to earlier on, he's a kind of number 10, isn't he? And if you look at the players that started the season at number 10, or potentially number 10, Haji's out of contract, Lawrence is out of contract, Bajrami, who knows, Lowry's away. So he might almost have the role to himself by the time. Who knows what's going to happen in the summer? So yeah, I've got no problem with him joining. But overall, most people are probably sitting there disappointed, saying we should spend this money, we should spend that money. We've already got 3 players to go into the European squad, and cup ties. There's only 4 cup ties left, and we've got a team that could win any of the 4 of them. So I don't see the value to the club of doing anything stupid this transfer window.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, Davey. Like I said, I mean, everyone's going to have their views, and please, out there, if you want to agree or disagree with us, or tell Andrew he's Ravi's a genius, and we're fools for letting go of him. Let us know in the comments. Welcome it, even from crazy people. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys, Davey. Pleasure to have you on, mate. Excellent debut, and thank you very much for joining me this evening, mate.
My pleasure. Hopefully, I'll speak to you again soon.
No, for sure. Andrew, you've gone but not forgotten. Ravi, it's been a pleasure talking to you, mate. It's always good to get your views, and fun to take the piss about Ravi as well. It's entertaining for me, if no one else. So thank you, mate.
No problem at all. I enjoy talking about the Messiah with you guys. I've just it is what it is. I know this is the Stevie Clifford hangover now, where his loved one has gone. In his case, Scott Wright has departed on a permanent deal, and I'm hoping that there is maybe one final twist on the road to McDonaldmania.
Just endlessly praying for that reconciliation.
Oh, definitely.
We're sorry.
Definitely.
Come back. And finally, Kenny, a pleasure as always, mate. Thank you for joining us tonight.
No, thanks, Andrew. Good win. Interesting window. Maybe a wee bit deflating for some, but we've got a free week now. Then we've got the game against Queen's Park, haven't we? So I'm sure plenty will be rested. So, when we come back for the Hearts game, we should be very, very refreshed and ready to go. And one of those weird things about that window that I don't really know how to take it or make of it. So we're on here trying to chat about it, and I don't really know myself. But thanks for having me on.
I think part of it is, Kenny, time will tell. We find ourselves in a Euro final in a few months, and we're bemoaning the fact that we didn't know we got Lyle Cameron in. Could have been the difference maker. You never can tell. As ever, folks, it's a pleasure talking to you all. Everyone out there listening or watching, thank you very much. We appreciate you tuning in. You're the reason why we do it, or at least you help to be part of the reason why we do it. We'd probably still do it anyway, but you guys make it more worthwhile. So thank you for that. Get your comments in. Let us know what you think. We will be back with you for sure this Thursday, looking ahead to the Queen's Park game and hopefully taking our next step towards the Scottish Cup final. But it's been a pleasure as ever. And until we talk to you again, bye for now. Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, along with Art of Gold. Thank you for listening or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.